The check in my hand wasn't just a bonus, it was my escape hatch, the result of surviving a brutal year while everyone else crumbled. I made the mistake of thinking this money meant freedom. But in my family, success isn't personal property. It is a community resource to be harvested. When my sister Marissa looked me dead in the eye and demanded 50% because she had kids, and I didn't, I realized my silence had been expensive. The fluorescent lights of the fourth-floor hallway always hummed at a pitch that set my teeth on edge. But today, the sound felt distant, like static on a radio channel I had finally tuned out. I walked back to my cubicle carrying a plain manila envelope, my heels clicking rhythmically against the industrial gray carpet. The office was quieter than it had been 6 months ago. The empty desks were like missing teeth in a smile, reminding everyone who remained that we were the lucky ones, or perhaps just the ones who could endure the most pain without breaking. I was 33 years old, and I had just survived the third round of layoffs at Medisource, a mid-sized healthcare technology firm in Lakebridge, Ohio. For the past year, I had done the work of 3 people. I had stayed late every night, eating vending machine crackers for dinner while rewriting code that the laid-off senior developers had left unfinished. I had managed the migration of our biggest client's database when the servers crashed over Thanksgiving weekend, talking a panicked hospital administrator off the ledge while sitting on my bathroom floor with a laptop balanced on my knees. I sat down in my ergonomic chair, the mesh fabric pressing into my back, and opened the envelope again just to make sure I had not hallucinated the number. It was a letter from the regional director. The language was corporate and sterile, thanking me for my unwavering dedication during a transitional period, but the check attached to the bottom was real. It was a performance bonus, not the usual holiday token of $500, but a retention and performance payout tied to the database rescue, $35,000. I stared at the number, written out in black ink, 35,000, to some of the executives on the top floor. This was probably a rounding error, the cost of a luxury vacation or a new car they would drive on weekends. To me, it was oxygen. It was the first full breath I had taken in 5 years. I quickly folded the letter and shoved it deep into my purse, underneath my planner and a tangled pair of headphones. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I looked around the office. Sarah, 2 cubicles down, was typing furiously. Her shoulders hunched up to her ears. Mark, by the window, was staring blankly at a spreadsheet. We had all been conditioned to keep our heads down, to never boast, to never look too happy, because happiness in a layoff culture looked like a target. I opened a blank document on my computer screen, pretending to work, but my mind was racing through the arithmetic of my life. I had $14,000 in high-interest credit card debt, the ghost of a car repair disaster, and a medical deductible from 2 years ago when I had pneumonia. This check would wipe that out instantly. Gone. No more monthly interest payments eating away at my paycheck. That left $21,000. I could put $6,000 into my emergency fund, which was currently sitting at a terrifying $300, and the remaining $15,000, that was the beginning of a down payment. I had been renting a drafty 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town for 7 years, throwing money into a pit every month. I wanted a condo. Nothing fancy, just something with walls I could paint and a door I could lock, knowing that nobody had a spare key. I closed my eyes for a second. I was going to be safe. For the first time in my adult life, I was going to be financially safe. I picked up my phone to check the time. It was 5 o'clock. I had a dinner to get to. My mother's 65th birthday was tonight, and attendance was not optional. I did not text anyone about the bonus. I did not call my best friend. I did not post a vague celebration emoji on social media. I had learned a long time ago that in my family, good news traveled faster than light, and by the time it reached the other end, it usually morphed into an obligation. I simply opened my banking app, scheduled an appointment with a financial advisor for Monday morning, and packed up my bag. The drive to my parents' house took 30 minutes through the gray, slushy streets of Lakebridge. It was late March, that miserable time of year in the Midwest, where the snow has turned to dirty ice and the sky is a permanent sheet of unwashed steel. I listened to a podcast about frugal living, letting the host's voice calm me down. When I pulled into the driveway of the split-level house I grew up in, I felt that familiar tightening in my stomach. It was a reflex, conditioned by decades of walking on eggshells. My car, a 7-year-old sedan with a dent in the rear bumper, looked small next to the oversized SUV parked in the street. Marissa was here. My sister Marissa was 3 years older than me, and she took up space in a way I never could. She was vibrant, chaotic, and loud. She was the sun, and the rest of us were just planets hoping not to get burned by the solar flares. I walked into the house, shaking the cold off my coat. The smell of pot roast and heavy perfume hit me instantly. "Eleanor, you made it!" My mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish rag. She looked tired. She always looked tired these days. Her gray hair pulled back in a loose clip that was slowly sliding out. She hugged me, but her eyes were already darting over my shoulder, checking the living room. "Marissa is here. The boys are in the basement playing video games." "Happy birthday." "Mom," I said, handing her a gift bag. It contained a silk scarf and a gift certificate to a local spa. Something just for her. Something that couldn't be shared or eaten or borrowed. "Oh, you shouldn't have," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Marissa brought a cake. It's nice." I walked into the living room. Marissa was sprawled on the beige sofa, thumbing through her phone while a glass of red wine balanced precariously on the armrest. She looked great. She always did. Her hair was freshly highlighted, a shimmering blonde cascade that must have cost $300 at the salon downtown. She was wearing a new sweater, something chunky and designer-looking. "There she is!" Marissa looked up, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "The working girl returns. We were about to send a search party." "I came straight from the office," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Hi, Marissa." "You look exhausted," she said, taking a sip of wine. "Doesn't that company give you a break? I swear, corporate America is a scam. That is why I tell everyone, being a mother is the hardest job on earth. But at least I am my own boss." I didn't point out that she hadn't held a paying job in 6 years, or that her being her own boss mostly involved selling essential oils on Facebook for 3 months before giving up. I just nodded. "It has been a long quarter." "Tell me about it," she sighed, gesturing vaguely at the ceiling. "The boys need new hockey gear. Do you know how much skates cost now? It is criminal. And the grocery prices? I went to the store yesterday and spent $200 on basically nothing. I don't know how regular people survive." As she complained about poverty, she lifted her phone to check a notification. It was the latest model, the Pro version that had just come out last month. It gleamed under the living room lamps. Beside the couch sat a brand new stroller system, the kind with the shock absorbers and the leather-wrapped handle. "Is that new?" I asked, nodding at the stroller. "Oh, this?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I had to get it. The old one had a squeaky wheel, and it was driving me crazy. Plus, this one folds down with one hand. When you have kids, Eleanor, you pay for convenience. You have to." I bit my tongue. I wanted to ask how she afforded a $1,000 stroller while complaining about the price of milk, but I knew the answer. It went on a card, or her husband worked overtime, or our mother slipped her cash for the boys. We moved to the dining room. The table was set with Mom's good china, the plates with the gold rim that we were forbidden to touch as children. My cousin Jenna had joined us, a sweet, oblivious girl in her early 20s who lived on her phone. Dinner was the usual affair. Marissa dominated the conversation, recounting a feud she was having with a teacher at her son's school, framing herself as the heroic advocate against a negligent system. I ate my roast beef and nodded at the right intervals. "So, Eleanor," Jenna asked during a lull, "how is work? Did you guys survive the layoffs? I saw on the news that the tech sector is bleeding." I took a sip of water. "It was rough," I admitted, "but we stabilized. I actually closed out the migration project this week." That is the big one you were stressed about over Christmas, right? Jenna asked. Yeah. I let my guard down for 1 second. The relief of the check was still humming in my veins, warm and dangerous. It went well. Leadership was appreciative. I finally got recognized for it. That is awesome, Jenna beamed. Like a promotion? Just recognized, I said quickly, trying to walk it back. A good review. Well, thank God for that, Marissa chimed in, buttering a roll aggressively. At least someone in this family has a steady paycheck. Must be nice to just worry about yourself. No mouths to feed, no tuition bills. You live the dream. L. It is not exactly a dream, I said, my voice tight. It is 60-hour weeks. But you get to go home to a quiet apartment, Marissa countered, pointing her knife at me. You get to sleep. You have no idea what tired is until you have nursed a baby at 3 a.m. I let it go. I always let it go. A few minutes later, Jenna held up her phone. Smile! Everyone! Birthday selfie! We all leaned in. I forced a smile. Marissa struck a pose, tilting her head to catch the light. 20 minutes later, while I was helping Mom clear the plates, I saw Jenna tapping away on Instagram. She had posted the photo. I glanced at her screen over her shoulder. The caption read, "Family dinner for Aunt Linda's birthday. So proud of my cousin Eleanor for crushing it at work and finally getting the big recognition she deserves. Girl boss family time." My stomach dropped. Recognition was a vague word, but in Marissa's language, it translated to something else entirely. I carried the stack of plates into the kitchen. The kitchen was narrow, a galley style with oak cabinets that hadn't been updated since the 90s. I was scraping leftovers into the trash when the swinging door pushed open behind me. It was Marissa. She didn't have any dishes in her hands. She leaned against the counter, crossing her arms over her chest. The chaotic energy from dinner was gone, replaced by a sharp, focused intensity. "So," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial low, "Jenna says you got big recognition." "Jenna exaggerates," I said, keeping my eyes on the dirty plates. I turned the faucet on, hoping the noise of the water would create a barrier. "She said you saved the big project," Marissa said, taking a step closer. She smelled of expensive vanilla perfume and red wine. "That usually comes with more than a pat on the back. Elle, did you get a bonus?" I froze. I should have lied. I should have said it was a plaque or a gift card to a steakhouse. But I am a terrible liar, and she is an expert reader of silence. "I got a performance bonus. Yes," I said, scrubbing a plate harder than necessary. "It is just a standard thing." "How much?" "That is private." "Marissa." "Oh, come on," she laughed. A brittle sound. "We are sisters. I tell you everything. I told you exactly how much Mark makes. Why are you being weird?" "I am not being weird. I just don't like talking about money." "Is it 5,000? She guessed. I didn't answer. 10? Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh my God. Eleanor, is it more than 10? I turned off the water and faced her. I needed to leave. I needed to get my purse and drive away. "It is going to help me pay off my student loans and the credit card," I said, trying to make it sound boring. "It is already allocated. Marissa, it is gone, basically." She looked at me, her head cocked to the side, analyzing my micro-expressions. "It is more than 10, I can tell. You have that look you get when you are hiding candy from me when we were kids." She stepped into my personal space. The kitchen felt suddenly very small. "Look," she said, her voice shifting into that warm, syrupy tone she used when she wanted something. "That is amazing. Elle, really, I am happy for you, but you know Mark and I are drowning right now. Drowning." "I know things are tight," I said. "That is why I bought Mom the spa gift card so you wouldn't have to chip in." "It is not just the gift," she said, waving her hand. "It is everything. The boys need braces. The car needs new tires. Mark's hours got cut last month. We are staring at a hole, Eleanor. A real hole. I pressed my back against the sink. I am sorry. Marissa, I really am. You don't have to be sorry, she said softly. You can help. If you got a big check, well, that is basically family money, isn't it? We have always helped each other. Mom helped you with rent when you graduated. Mom helped me with a deposit once, I corrected. And I paid her back within 6 months. Whatever. The point is, family steps up. She looked me dead in the eye. My kids need it more than your credit card company does. Eleanor, those banks can wait. My kids can't. Marissa, I have debts too. I have been saving for a house. A house? She scoffed, the warmth evaporating instantly. You are single. You don't need a house. You need a condo, maybe. But my boys need stability. We are behind on the mortgage. If we don't pay, we get a notice. I felt the familiar guilt rising, the conditioning that said my needs were secondary because I didn't have children. But then I touched the counter where my purse was resting. I thought about the $300 in my savings account. I thought about the late nights eating crackers. I thought about the panic attacks I had hidden from everyone. I can sit down with you and look at your budget, I offered, my voice trembling slightly. I can help you find resources. There are programs. I don't need a budget, she snapped, her voice rising. I don't need you to lecture me on how to clip coupons. I need cash. I need you to share the windfall. It is luck, Eleanor. You just got lucky with a project. You didn't work harder than any other mother out there. It wasn't luck, I said. It was overtime. How much did you get? She demanded. She wasn't asking anymore. 20? 30? Marissa, stop. Give me half, she said. The words hung in the air, heavy and absurd. What? Half? She repeated, her face deadly serious. That is fair. You keep half for your little debts, and you give the other half to your nephews, to family. God, Eleanor, don't be greedy. You don't even have anyone to spend it on. Half. She wanted $17,500, just like that, because she existed, because she had given birth and I hadn't. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. My hands were shaking. This was the moment. The script said I should crumble. I should say, let me see what I can do, and write her a check for $5,000 just to make the yelling stop. That was what I had done for a decade. But I looked at her perfect hair, her new sweater, the memory of that $1,000 stroller in the living room. No, I said. The word sounded strange in my own ears. It was quiet, flat, and final. Marissa blinked. She looked like I had just slapped her. Excuse me? No, I said again, louder this time. I am not giving you half. I am not giving you any of it. That money is for my future. I have earned it, and I have plans for it. You are joking, she whispered. I am not discussing this further, I said. I grabbed my purse from the counter. I am going to say goodbye to Mom. Marissa's face went through a terrifying transformation. The shock melted into a cold, hard rage, and then, in an instant, it shattered into performance. Her eyes filled with tears on command. Her lower lip trembled. She shoved past me, bursting through the swinging door into the dining room where Mom and Jenna were sitting. I can't believe you, Marissa shrieked. The sound was ear-splitting. I followed her out, my stomach twisting. Marissa, stop! No, she yelled, turning to face me in front of our mother. I can't believe you would be so selfish. I ask you for a tiny bit of help, for the boys, for your own nephews who adore you, and you look at me and laugh? You are turning your back on children. Eleanor, your own flesh and blood. Mom stood up, looking terrified. Marissa, what is wrong? What happened? Eleanor got a huge bonus, Marissa sobbed, pointing a manicured finger at me. Huge, tens of thousands of dollars. And I just mentioned that we were struggling, that we might lose the house. And she said she didn't care. She said she needs it for a vacation or something. I did not say that, I said, my voice steady but low. I said I am using it to pay off my debt. You are hoarding it, Marissa screamed. While we suffer. God, you have always been like this, cold. You think because you have a degree and a fancy job you are better than us? You think you don't owe this family anything. Marissa, please, Mom said, reaching out to touch her arm. Calm down. It is my birthday. She ruined it, Marissa cried, pulling away. She comes in here flaunting her success, rubbing it in my face that I sacrificed my career to be a mother. It is sick. It is absolutely sick. She turned to Jenna. Did you hear her? She basically said my kids don't matter. Jenna looked between us, wide-eyed and uncomfortable. I didn't hear anything. I am leaving, I said. I couldn't do this. I walked toward the front door. Yeah, run away, Marissa yelled after me. Run back to your money. I hope it keeps you warm at night because you are going to be very lonely. Eleanor! I opened the front door and stepped out into the cold night air. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors. My hands were trembling so bad I had to grip the steering wheel just to stop them. I didn't cry. I was too shocked to cry. I had said no. I had actually said no. I started the engine and backed out of the driveway, leaving the warm glow of the house behind. The drive home was a blur. I kept waiting for the feeling of victory, but all I felt was a deep, encroaching dread. I knew my sister. I knew that the scene in the living room wasn't the end. It was the opening ceremony. When I got to my apartment, I sat in the dark car for a moment before looking at my phone. The screen was lit up with notifications. There was a group text from Brooke's family chat, which included 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and several cousins. Aunt Linda, Eleanor, Honey, Marissa is so upset. Please tell me there was a misunderstanding. We help each other in this family. Cousin Mike, not cool to flash cash around and then stiff your sister. Elle, she's really crying. Aunt Sarah, just help her. Eleanor, you know how hard it is with kids. Don't be that person. Then, a private message from my cousin Jenna. Jenna, hey, I deleted the story. Marissa is texting everyone. She is telling people you promised her the money months ago for a loan and now you are backing out. She is saying you lied to her. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the glowing screen in the darkness of my car. The narrative was already being rewritten. I wasn't the sister who earned a bonus. I was the sister who broke a promise. I was the villain. I turned off the phone, walked up the stairs to my apartment, and double-locked the door. I was safe inside. But I knew the siege had just begun. The morning sun that hit my bedroom window usually felt like a promise, a quiet reassurance that the chaos of the world had reset while I slept. But that Sunday morning, the light felt intrusive, exposing the dust motes dancing in the air and the tightness in my chest that hadn't dissolved overnight. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, a reflex I instantly regretted. The notifications were stacked in a terrifying vertical list. Facebook, Instagram, text messages. I sat up, pulling the duvet up to my chin, and opened the Facebook app. The algorithm, helpful as always, had pinned Marissa's post to the top of my feed. It had been posted at 2 a.m. The background was a gradient of stormy grays and blacks. The text was white, bold, and screaming for attention. It is funny how money reveals people's true colors. You think you know someone, you think you share values, and then a little bit of cash comes into their life and suddenly they are better than everyone else. Selfish people who hoard blessings while their own flesh and blood struggles. I just pray my children never learn that kind of greed. Family. First, heartbroken. True colors. It was a masterpiece of vague booking. She hadn't named me. She hadn't detailed the specific demand. She had simply painted a silhouette of a villain and handed the paintbrush to our extended family to fill in the details. I scrolled to the comments, my stomach turning over. Aunt Linda. Oh, honey, I am so sorry. Some people just lose their way. Cousin Mike. I hate seeing you stressed. Rissa. Karma has a way of working these things out. Random high school friend of Marissa. This is so sad. You are such a good mom. You don't deserve this energy. Uncle Bob. Call me later. We can talk. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know she had demanded $17,500, half of my hard-won safety net, because she felt entitled to it. They only knew that Marissa was crying and I was the cause. To them, I was the cold, childless career woman sitting on a dragon's hoard while the virtuous mother suffered. I wanted to type a response. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to write, "She asked for half my bonus because she bought a $1,000 stroller." I wanted to scream facts into the void, but I stopped. I knew how this game worked. If I defended myself, I looked defensive. If I attacked her spending, I looked petty. Marissa thrived in the mud. If I jumped in, she would just hold me down until we were both dirty, and she would win because she had more practice. I took a deep breath and took a screenshot instead. I opened a new folder in my cloud drive and named it simply Documentation. I uploaded the screenshot. Then I went to the family group chat, which was suspiciously silent, and screenshotted the messages from the night before. I screenshotted Jenna's warning text. I felt a strange, cold detachment settling over me. It was the same feeling I got when a server crashed at work, the panic fading into a grim procedural focus. This was a system failure. I needed a log. I spent the next hour cleaning my apartment. I scrubbed the counters, vacuumed the rug, and organized my bookshelf. I needed order. My apartment was small, a second-floor unit in a converted brick building, but it was mine. It was quiet. It was paid for. At 10 o'clock, the buzzer rang. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. I walked to the intercom by the door. "Who is it?" "It is me. And the boys." Marissa's voice crackled through the speaker, bright and chirpy, as if the last 12 hours hadn't happened. "We brought breakfast." My hand hovered over the unlock button. I shouldn't let her in. Every instinct screamed that this was a breach, but she had the boys, my nephews, Leo and Sam, were 7 and 5. They were innocent collateral damage in this war, and if I left them standing on the stoop in the cold, Marissa would have fresh ammunition for her narrative of my cruelty. I buzzed them in. A minute later, my door swung open. Marissa breezed in, bringing a gust of cold air and the smell of sugar. She was wearing leggings and an oversized sweater. Her hair pulled back in a messy bun that looked effortlessly cute. She carried a pink bakery box. Leo and Sam barreled past her. "Auntie Elle!" Sam shouted. Launching himself at my legs, I caught him, the tension in my shoulders momentarily breaking. "Hey, buddy, careful. You are getting big." "We got donuts," Leo announced, kicking off his boots and leaving them in the middle of the hallway. "Mom said we could have the ones with sprinkles." "That is great," I said, looking up at Marissa. She was smiling. It was a terrifying smile. Tight, practiced, and devoid of any real warmth. She set the bakery box on my kitchen island. "I thought we could use a reset," she said, unpacking the donuts. "I know things got heated last night. I am Italian. You are stubborn. It happens. Coffee?" She was rewriting history in real time. The screaming match, the insults, the Facebook post, all just heated passion. "I saw your post. Marissa," I said, staying on the other side of the island. "Oh, that?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I was just venting. You know how I get. I didn't name you. Here, have a cruller. It is your favorite." "I am not hungry," she sighed, a dramatic exhale that ruffled her bangs. "Okay, fine. Boys, why don't you go play in the living room? Auntie Elle has Disney Plus." "Yay!" They scrambled toward the TV. Marissa waited until the sound of cartoons filled the apartment. Then she turned to me, and the smile vanished. Her face settled into a hard, businesslike mask. "Look," she said, keeping her voice low. "I brought the donuts as a peace offering. I am willing to move past your little outburst yesterday. We are sisters. We fight. We make up. But we need to settle this like adults. There is nothing to settle, I said. I gave you my answer. Eleanor, be serious. She leaned her hip against the counter, crossing her arms. I know you were just reacting out of shock. It is a lot of money. It is overwhelming. But I have been thinking about the logistics. If you can't transfer the full half today, I can take a check for $5,000 now, and we can work out a payment plan for the rest of the $17,000. I stared at her. The audacity was breathtaking. She wasn't asking. She was negotiating terms of surrender. I am not giving you $5,000, I said, my voice steady. I am not giving you a payment plan. The money is for my debts and my down payment. That is final. You are really going to do this? She narrowed her eyes. You are really going to choose a bank account over your family? You don't understand responsibility. Eleanor, you live in this little bubble where your biggest problem is what takeout to order. You have no idea what it takes to keep a family afloat. I understand that I work 60 hours a week, I countered. I understand that I drive a 7-year-old car so I can save money. Your financial situation is not my responsibility, Marissa. It is when you have excess and I have need. That is how a tribe works. If you need help, I said, trying to pivot to the strategy I had rehearsed in my head. I can help in other ways. I can help Mark with his resume. I know a recruiter at a logistics firm who is hiring. I can help you look into utility assistance programs. I can even watch the boys on Saturday mornings so you can pick up a shift somewhere. Marissa recoiled as if I had slapped her. Assistance programs? You want me to go on welfare? You want Mark to get a resume lesson from his little sister-in-law? That is insulting. Eleanor, that is condescending. It is practical help. I don't need practical help. I need cash. She slammed her hand on the counter. The bakery box jumped. I need to pay the mortgage. I need to pay for the boys' hockey. I need to maintain a standard of living that gives my children a chance in this world. Then maybe the standard of living needs to adjust, I said quietly. Marissa stared at me for a long beat. Then she took a step closer, dropping her voice to a whisper that was far scarier than her shouting. I already told the landlord, she said. I blinked. You told him what? I told him I would have the back rent by Tuesday, she said. I told him my sister was coming into a significant sum and was helping us out. He gave us an extension based on that. Eleanor, the air left the room. You what? We are 3 months behind, she admitted, her eyes locking onto mine, daring me to flinch. He was going to start the eviction process on Monday. I bought us time. I told him you were covering it. Marissa, you had no right to do that. You lied to him. I didn't lie. I assumed my sister wasn't a monster. She hissed. So now, if you don't give me the money, we get evicted, and that will be on you. You will be the reason Leo and Sam are homeless. You, not me. I did everything I could to find a solution. It was a masterclass in emotional blackmail. She had strapped a bomb to her own life and handed me the detonator, claiming that if it went off, I was the one who pulled the trigger. She wasn't threatening to hurt the kids. She was using their potential suffering as a hostage. That is manipulation, I said, my voice shaking. You are trying to trap me. I am trying to survive, she snapped. So, what is it going to be? Do you write the check, or do you explain to Sam why he has to sleep in a shelter? I am not writing a check, I said. And if you get evicted, it is because you spent money on a $1,000 stroller instead of rent, not because I didn't rescue you. Get out, she said. This is my apartment. Marissa. I said, get out of my face. She turned around and marched into the living room. Boys, shoes on, we are leaving. But the show isn't over, Sam protested. Now, she screamed. The boys scrambled, terrified. Marissa herded them toward the door. She paused with her hand on the knob, turning back to look at me one last time. You will regret this, she said. You have no idea what you just started. The door slammed shut. The silence that followed was heavy and ringing. I stood in the hallway for 5 minutes, unable to move. My hands were cold. The bakery box sat on the counter. A pink cardboard tombstone for our relationship. I grabbed my phone and dialed my mother. Hello? Her voice was small, cautious. Mom, I said, skipping the pleasantries. Did you know Marissa was 3 months behind on rent? There was a long pause. Eleanor, she is having a hard time. Did you know? Yes, she whispered. Did you know she told her landlord I was going to pay it? Well, Mom hesitated. She told me she was going to ask you. She said since you got that big bonus, it would be the perfect solution. I told her I was sure you would want to help. I closed my eyes, leaning my forehead against the cool drywall of the hallway. You promised her I would pay? Before she even asked me? I didn't promise. Exactly. I just said, give Eleanor time. She will come around. I just wanted her to stop crying. She was so upset. I thought if I gave her hope, she would calm down. You set me up, I said. You let her believe the money was a guarantee so you wouldn't have to deal with her anxiety. You made me the bad guy. That is not fair, Mom said, her voice rising in defense. I am the peacemaker in this family. I am the one who keeps everything together. You have no idea the pressure I'm under. Marissa calls me 5 times a day. If you just gave her a little bit, Eleanor, just 5,000, maybe, this would all go away. Why do you have to be so rigid? Because it is my life. Mom, it is my future. Is your future more important than your family? She asked. Yes, I said. Right now? Yes. I hung up. I didn't want to hear any more. I felt a crack forming in the foundation of my world, the realization that my mother wasn't a victim of Marissa's chaos, but a willing participant in the architecture of it. Monday morning at the office was usually a relief, a return to the logical world of code and databases. But as I walked to my desk, I felt exposed. I kept expecting Marissa to pop out from behind a filing cabinet. I sat down and logged in. Sarah, my cubicle neighbor, rolled her chair over. Hey, she said, lowering her voice. Everything okay? Yeah, just a busy weekend, I said, keeping my eyes on the screen. Why? Weird thing on Friday afternoon, Sarah said. I forgot to tell you. Someone called the main line asking for your extension, but when the receptionist tried to transfer, they started asking questions, like really specific questions. My stomach dropped. What kind of questions? They asked if the bonus payouts had been processed yet, Sarah said, frowning. And they asked for verification of the amount. They said they were calling from a mortgage lender, confirming details for your home loan application. I hadn't applied for a home loan yet. I hadn't even spoken to a lender. Did the receptionist tell them anything? I asked, my voice tight. No, obviously. She told them they needed a subpoena or written authorization for payroll details. They hung up. But it was weird, right? You buying a house? I am thinking about it, I lied. Must have been a mistake. Okay, just wanted to let you know. Sarah rolled back to her desk. I sat there, staring at the blinking cursor. Marissa had called my job. She had impersonated a lender, or tried to find out exactly how much money I had. She wanted the number. She wanted to know the size of the prize she was hunting. I got up and walked straight to HR, the HR director, a woman named Karen who had survived the layoffs with a permanent expression of exhaustion. Listen to me quietly. I need to flag a potential security issue, I said. I am going through a domestic dispute with a family member. I believe they may attempt to contact the company to gain information about my employment or compensation. Karen typed something into her computer. Is there a restraining order? No, I said. Not yet. Okay, well, our policy is strict. We never release employee data without written consent. I will send a memo to the reception team to route any calls regarding your employment directly to legal. But Eleanor, if they show up here, we have to call security. You know that, right? I know, I said. Please do. I walked back to my desk, my hands trembling. This was escalation. This was warfare. I took out my phone and typed a text to Marissa. I didn't want to engage, but I had to draw a line around my livelihood. Eleanor, do not contact my workplace. Do not pretend to be a lender. If you call my office again, I will have to take legal action. Stop posting about me on social media. I watched the 3 dots appear almost instantly. She was waiting. Marissa, I didn't call your work. You are paranoid. But it is funny you are so worried about your precious job when your family is about to be on the street. I am not doing anything illegal. Eleanor, families share information. Families share resources. You are the one breaking the contract, not me. She denied it and justified it in the same breath. Families share. It was a perverse distortion of love, twisting intimacy into a license to steal. At noon, I left the building for my appointment with a financial advisor. His office was 3 blocks away, a quiet suite with mahogany furniture and the smell of old paper. Mr. Henderson was a man in his 60s who had managed my meager IRA for a decade. He listened as I explained the bonus, my plan for the debt, and the condo. Then, hesitantly, I asked the question that had been gnawing at me. Hypothetically, I said, if I were to give a large portion of this money to a family member, what does that look like? Mr. Henderson took off his glasses and polished them. Define large. $17,000. Well, he said, putting the glasses back on. First, you have the tax implication on your end. That bonus is taxed as supplemental income. The government takes its cut before you even see it. If you give away half the gross amount, you are effectively giving away more than you took home, relative to the tax burden. He pulled out a notepad. Secondly, the IRS has a gift tax exclusion limit. It is high, around $17,000 or $18,000 a year per person, so you might just scrape under the wire for reporting it. But if you simply transfer that cash, the bank might flag it. Large cash movements trigger suspicious activity reports. It is standard anti-money laundering protocol. It won't get you arrested, but it puts eyes on your accounts. He looked at me over the rim of his glasses. But the real issue, Eleanor, isn't the IRS, it is the precedent. In my 30 years of doing this, I have never seen a one-time bailout work. If you pay this, you are becoming their bank, and you are a bank with no ability to foreclose. You will never see that money again, and they will be back in 6 months. She says she will get evicted, I said quietly. She might, Mr. Henderson said frankly, but if you pay her rent, she learns that eviction is a threat that works on you. She will use it again. You are not buying her safety. Eleanor, you are buying her silence, and the price of silence always goes up. He was right. I knew he was right. I left his office feeling a strange mixture of validation and terror. The math was on my side. The logic was on my side. But logic didn't stop a sister who was willing to burn everything down. I went back to work and finished the day in a haze. I didn't check social media. I kept my phone on Do Not Disturb. When I got home that evening, I made a simple dinner of scrambled eggs and toast. I sat at my small kitchen table, the silence of the apartment wrapping around me. It felt lonely, yes, but it also felt safe. My laptop chimed with an email notification. I opened it. It was from an address I didn't recognize. jsmithlegalassociate@gmail.com. It looked unprofessional, fake. Subject, outstanding obligation, final notice. I clicked it open. There was no body text, just an attachment, a PDF. I downloaded it and opened the file. It was a scanned document, a piece of lined notebook paper, yellowed slightly as if it were old. At the top, written in blue ink, were the words, Promissory note, I, Eleanor Brooks, acknowledge that I have borrowed the sum of $18,000 from Marissa Brooks over the period of 2018 to 2023 for various living expenses, tuition assistance, and emergency rent. I promise to repay this amount in full upon receipt of any significant financial windfall or by January 2025. At the bottom was a signature, Eleanor Brooks. I stared at the signature. The blood drained from my face. It looked like my signature. It had the loop on the E, the sharp slant of the B, but it was stiff. It looked like someone had traced it. I zoomed in. The date next to the signature was 3 years ago. I had never signed this. I had never borrowed money from Marissa. It was always the other way around. Tuition assistance? I had paid my own tuition with loans and work study. Emergency rent? That was a lie. I looked at the sender address again. J. Smith Legal Assoc. It was a dummy account. Marissa had made this. She had forged a document, created a fake legal persona, and sent it to me. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was fraud. She was building a paper trail. She was preparing to take this to a place where fairness didn't matter. Only evidence did. I sat there in the glow of the laptop screen, the fake IOU staring back at me. I realized with a sick clarity that Mr. Henderson was wrong about one thing. She wasn't just going to come back in 6 months. She was coming for me now. And she was bringing weapons I hadn't even imagined she possessed. I didn't delete the email. I dragged it into the documentation folder. Then I closed the laptop, walked to the door, and checked the deadbolt. It was locked. But for the first time in my life, I wondered if a lock was enough to keep my sister out. I sat at my kitchen table, the laptop screen casting a harsh blue light over my untouched coffee. The PDF file named promissory_note_final ... was open at 150% zoom. I had been staring at it for an hour, dissecting it with the same forensic intensity I used to debug broken code at work. The document was a collage of lies, but it was constructed with a terrifying degree of competence. First, there were the dates. The note claimed I had borrowed $2,000 for emergency housing assistance in October of 2018. I opened my digital calendar from that year. In October of 2018, I was living in a cheap studio apartment that I had paid for 3 months in advance with money I earned waiting tables. I hadn't borrowed a dime. In fact, that was the month I had bought Marissa a $300 stroller for her baby shower. Then there was the formatting. The font was Times New Roman, standard and boring, but the spacing was uneven, as if paragraphs had been copy-pasted from different legal templates found online. It used phrases like herein and undersigned in ways that sounded authoritative but didn't actually make grammatical sense. But it was the signature that made my stomach turn over. It was my name, Eleanor Brooks. The slant was right. The way the capital E looped back on itself was right. But the pressure was wrong. When I sign my name, the ink is heavier on the downstrokes. This signature was uniform. The line weight identical all the way through. I stood up and walked to the bookshelf in the hallway. I pulled down an old photo album, flipping through the pages until I found a birthday card I had given Marissa 5 years ago. Happy birthday, Rissa. Love, Eleanor Brooks. I brought the card back to the laptop and held it up to the screen. It was a perfect match. She hadn't just forged my signature. She had traced it. She had taken a card I had written with love, placed it under a piece of paper, and traced the lines of my name to manufacture a debt. She had weaponized my own affection against me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. A cold, hard knot tightened in my chest, replacing the shock of the last few days. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a crime. I closed the laptop and picked up my phone. I didn't call Marissa. I didn't call my mother. I searched for local attorneys specializing in civil litigation. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the office of Bennett Associates, a small firm tucked away in a brick building downtown. The leather chair squeaked as I shifted my weight. Across the desk sat Mr. Bennett, a man with tired eyes and a suit that had seen better days. He looked at the printed copy of the IOU, then at me. "It is a forgery," I said, my voice steady. "And the dates are fabrications." Mr. Bennett nodded slowly, sliding the paper back across the desk. "I believe you, Ms. Brooks. The pixelation on the signature suggests a scan of a scan. In a criminal court, a handwriting expert would tear this apart in 10 minutes. So she can't enforce it?" I asked, feeling a surge of relief. Legally? No. It is unlikely a judge would uphold this, especially without a witness or a corresponding bank transfer record to show you actually received the money. He leaned back, tenting his fingers. But you need to understand something about cases like this. The goal isn't always to win in court. The goal is to make the process so painful that you pay to make it stop. What do you mean? If she files in small claims court, he explained. She doesn't need a lawyer. The filing fee is under $100. Once she files, it becomes a matter of public record. You have to take time off work to appear. You have to prepare a defense. If you don't show up, she gets a default judgment. She can drag your name through the mud, force you to stand in a courtroom and call your sister a liar in front of strangers. It is intimidation, pure and simple. She is trying to scare me, I said. She is trying to leverage the hassle factor, he corrected. She is betting that you will look at the cost of fighting, the stress, the time, the embarrassment, and decide that writing a check is cheaper. I thought about the $17,000. I thought about the condo I wanted to buy. I won't pay her, I said. I don't care how messy it gets. Good, Mr. Bennett said. Then we prepare. But you need to lock down your life, Miss Brooks, if she is willing to forge a document. She is willing to cross other lines. I left his office with a to-do list that felt more like a survival guide for a witness protection program than advice for a family disagreement. I spent the rest of the afternoon erasing my digital footprint. I called the 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and placed a freeze on my credit reports. No one, not even me, could open a new line of credit in my name without a PIN number that only I knew. I logged into my bank account and changed the password to a string of random characters 20 digits long. I set up 2-factor authentication for everything: email, social media, retirement accounts. Then I walked into the management office of my apartment building. The property manager, a nice woman named Mrs. Higgins, who always gave me cookies at Christmas, looked up with a smile. "Hi, Eleanor. Everything okay with the radiator?" "The radiator is fine," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Mrs. Higgins, I need to update my guest list. Effective immediately. No one is allowed up to my unit unless I personally come down to the lobby to get them. Specifically, my sister Marissa and her husband. Under no circumstances should they be given a key or buzzed in." Mrs. Higgins' smile faltered. "Oh, is everything all right? Marissa was just here on Sunday with those adorable boys." "It is a personal matter," I said, keeping my face blank. "But it is important. If she says it is an emergency, tell her to call the police. Do not let her in." "Okay," she said slowly, making a note in her binder. "I will put a flag on your file." I walked back up to my apartment, the sound of the deadbolt sliding home echoing in the empty hallway. I was safe, physically, but as I sat on my couch, the silence felt heavy. I closed my eyes and a memory surfaced, unbidden. I was 10 years old. It was the morning of my 5th grade science fair. I had spent weeks building a model of the solar system, painting styrofoam balls and carefully stringing them on wire. I was so proud of it, but that morning, Marissa, who was 13, had a meltdown. She couldn't find her favorite jeans. She screamed. She threw things. She refused to go to school unless Mom found them. The entire household ground to a halt. Mom was running around checking laundry baskets. Dad was yelling. In the chaos, my science project got knocked off the kitchen table. Jupiter crushed. Saturn's ring snapped. I remembered crying, holding the broken pieces, and I remembered Mom turning to me, her face flushed and stressed, and saying, "Eleanor, please, not now. I can't handle you being upset too. Just glue it back together. We have to deal with Marissa." I had glued it back together. I went to school with a lopsided Jupiter. And I learned the lesson that would define the next 20 years of my life. Marissa's problems were emergencies. My problems were inconveniences. Marissa took up all the oxygen in the room, so I learned to hold my breath. I opened my eyes. I was 33 years old, and I was still holding my breath. My phone buzzed, shattering the memory. It was my Aunt Linda. I stared at the screen. Aunt Linda was Mom's older sister, the matriarch of the extended family. She was loud, opinionated, and fiercely loyal to her version of the truth. I answered. "Hi, Aunt Linda." "Eleanor," she said. Her voice was thick, wet. She was crying. "I just got off the phone with Marissa. I am shaking. I am literally shaking." "Aunt Linda, please listen." "No, you listen," she snapped, the tears giving way to anger. "I held you when you were a baby. I watched you grow up. I never thought you would be so cruel. Marissa told me everything. She told me how she has been helping your mother pay for her medications for the last 2 years. And now that she needs a little help, you are turning your back on her?" I froze. "What?" "Don't play dumb," Linda said. "Marissa has been sending your mother $500 a month to cover her blood pressure meds and that specialist she sees. Marissa barely has 2 nickels to rub together, but she helps her mother. And you? You make that big city money and you hoard it. It is shameful. Eleanor." "Aunt Linda," I said, my voice rising. "Mom has full insurance. Her medications cost $10 a copay. Marissa has never sent her money." "Don't lie to me," Linda shouted. "Marissa showed me the texts. She sacrifices everything for this family. And you act like you are royalty because you have a degree. You need to fix this. You need to write her a check today. Or so help me God. I will never look at you the same way again." The line went dead. I sat there, the phone warm in my hand. The lie was so specific, so detailed. Marissa had told Aunt Linda that she was funding Mom's health care. It was brilliant. It made Marissa the saintly martyr and me the ungrateful parasite. But it was easily disproven. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house. My mother was in the kitchen, drinking tea and staring out the window at the gray backyard. She looked smaller than she had a few days ago. The stress was carving new lines into her face. "Eleanor," she said when I walked in. She didn't get up. "Please don't start. I can't take any more yelling." "I am not here to yell," I said, sitting down opposite her. "Aunt Linda just called me. She said Marissa has been paying for your medication. She said Marissa sends you $500 a month." Mom flinched. She looked down into her teacup, her hands trembling slightly. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice gentle but firm. "Is that true?" "No," she whispered. "Does Marissa send you any money?" Mom shook her head. "No, I give her money. For groceries, for gas." "Then why does Linda think Marissa is supporting you?" Mom took a shuddering breath. "Because Marissa borrowed money from Linda last year. $2,000. I felt the air leave the room. "What?" "Marissa borrowed money from Linda," Mom continued, her voice barely audible. "She told Linda it was for me. She said I was sick and couldn't afford my bills, but I was too proud to ask. So Linda gave the money to Marissa to give to me." "And Marissa kept it," I stated. "Yes. And you knew?" "I found out later," Mom said, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "Linda mentioned it at Christmas. She asked if the money helped. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. I didn't want Linda to know Marissa stole from her. It would tear the family apart." "So you covered for her," I said. "You let Linda believe you were a charity case so Marissa wouldn't get caught." "It gets worse," Mom said, wiping her eyes. "She borrowed from Uncle Bob, too. She told him Mark lost his job and they needed it for rent. But Mark was working full-time, and she borrowed from your cousin Mike. She told him it was for Leo's tuition." I stared at my mother. It was a Ponzi scheme of lies. Marissa was moving from relative to relative, extracting cash with a different sob story for each one, and Mom was the silent accomplice, smoothing over the cracks to keep the facade from crumbling. "How much?" I asked. "How much does she owe people?" "I don't know," Mom sobbed. "Maybe 10,000? Maybe more? I have been paying Bob back a little bit at a time, pretending it is from Marissa. I just wanted to keep the peace. Eleanor, I just wanted everyone to get along." "This isn't peace," Mom, I said, feeling a wave of nausea. This is a cover-up. You are enabling her. You are helping her con the entire family. I am a mother, she cried. I can't let my daughter be ruined. If people knew the truth, she would be an outcast. She would have no one. She has you, I said. And because of that, she has victims. I stood up. I couldn't look at her. The betrayal was deeper than just money. My mother had sacrificed her own dignity and the trust of her siblings to protect the predator in our midst, and now she was willing to sacrifice me too. Eleanor, Mom pleaded, reaching for my hand. Please, just give her some of the bonus, just enough to pay off Linda and Bob. Then this all stops. We can wipe the slate clean. I pulled my hand away. It won't stop. It never stops. If I pay them off, she will just find a new person to lie to. I am not part of this. Mom, I am out. I walked out of the house, leaving my mother weeping at the kitchen table. The next evening, I was home, trying to focus on a book. When the buzzer rang, I checked the monitor. It was Marissa. She wasn't alone. She had Leo and Sam with her. I pressed the intercom button. I am not letting you in, Marissa. I just want to drop something off, she called out, her voice cheerful and loud, clearly performing for the camera, or perhaps for a neighbor walking by. The boys made you something. We don't have to come up. I will just leave it in the lobby. Marissa, say hi to Auntie Elle. Boys? Hi, Auntie Elle, the boys chorused. We love you, Marissa shouted. Bye. I watched on the grainy black and white screen as she ushered them out the door, leaving a large manila envelope on the mail table in the vestibule. I waited 5 minutes to make sure she was gone. Then I went down to the lobby. I picked up the envelope. It wasn't sealed. Inside were 2 pieces of construction paper. The first was a drawing by Leo. It showed stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. In wobbly crayon letters, he had written, "Thank you, Auntie Elle, for helping us." The second was from Sam. It was just a heart, painted in red tempera, with the words, "Best Aunt Ever." And clipped to the drawings was a note from Marissa, written on nice stationery. Elle, the boys were so happy when I told them you were going to fix everything. They wanted to make these for you. I told them you are the hero of the family. Don't let them down. Love, M. My hands shook as I held the drawings. It was sick. She had told them I had already agreed. She had told them I was the savior. She was setting me up to be the one who disappointed them. If I didn't pay, I wasn't just saying no to her. I was breaking a promise she had made in my name to a 7-year-old. She was using their innocence as a weapon. She was weaponizing their love. I took the drawings upstairs. I didn't throw them away. I put them in the documentation folder, scanning them as evidence of emotional coercion. Then I picked up my phone. I needed to set a boundary that was absolute. I texted Marissa. I received the drawings. They are sweet. But do not ever use the children to deliver messages again. Do not tell them I am giving you money. I am not. If you continue to involve Leo and Sam in this conflict, I will stop seeing them entirely to protect them from being used as pawns. This is your only warning. Her reply came 3 minutes later. Marissa, wow, threatening to cut off your nephews? You really are a monster. I was trying to show you that they love you, but clearly, you don't have a heart to break. I didn't respond. I blocked her number for the night. But the siege wasn't over. 2 days later, on a Wednesday, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I hadn't seen in 2 years. Greg. Greg was my ex-boyfriend. We had dated for 3 years and broken up amicably, mostly because our careers were taking us in different directions. He was a good guy. Greg. Hey, Elle. Long time? Listen, I don't want to overstep, but your sister reached out to me on Facebook. My stomach dropped. Eleanor. What did she say? Greg. She sent me a long message. She said she was worried about your mental health. She said you've been acting erratic, paranoid, and obsessed with money. She asked if I noticed any instability when we were together. She made it sound like you were having a breakdown and she was trying to get you help. I stared at the screen, blinking back tears of rage. This was the respectability warfare. She wasn't just coming for my money. She was coming for my character. She was planting seeds of doubt in the minds of everyone I knew. If I fought back, she could point to my anger and say, "See? I told you she was unstable." Eleanor. Greg. She is lying. We are in a financial dispute, and she is trying to discredit me. I am fine. Please ignore her. Greg. That's what I figured. It felt weird. She asked if I knew how much your bonus was. I blocked her. Just wanted you to know. Stay safe. Eleanor. Thank you. She was scorching the earth. She didn't care if she destroyed my reputation, my relationships, or my sanity. As long as she got what she wanted, it was about control. It was about proving that she could reach me, no matter how high I built the walls. That Friday, the final blow landed. It came as a text message from a new number. Since I had blocked her primary one, it was a photograph of a document. State of Ohio County of Lake Small Claims Division, Plaintiff, Marissa Brooks. Defendant, Eleanor Brooks. Complaint. Plaintiff seeks repayment of $18,000 for personal loans, childcare services provided, and breach of verbal contract regarding family asset distribution. It was stamped, draft, not filed. Beneath the photo was a text. Marissa, I have the paperwork ready. I have the filing fee. I really don't want to do this to you. It will be public record. Your boss will see it. Your bank will see it. Everyone will know you got sued by your own sister for unpaid debts. Last chance before I make this official. Transfer the money by Monday morning, or I go to the courthouse. I looked at the image. The legal terms were clumsy. The claim was baseless, but the threat was real. She was willing to drag us both into the fluorescent glare of a courtroom. She was willing to perjure herself, to lie to a judge, to humiliate us both. She thought this was the checkmate. She thought the fear of public shame would make me fold. But as I looked at the blurry photo of the complaint, I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt a cold, crystal clarity. She had played her hand. She had shown me exactly who she was. She was not a desperate mother. She was a blackmailer. And you do not negotiate with blackmailers. I saved the photo to my folder. I backed up the folder to an external hard drive. Then I typed a reply, my fingers steady on the glass screen. Eleanor, do not contact me again. I will see you in court. I put the phone down. The silence in the apartment was absolute. The bridge was burned. The ashes were still smoking, but for the first time in my life. I wasn't standing in the middle of the fire trying to put it out. I was standing on the other side, watching it burn. And I was safe. My attorney, Mr. Bennett, sat behind his cluttered desk with the calm demeanor of a man who had seen humanity at its worst and decided to just file the paperwork anyway. The fluorescent light of his office buzzed in harmony with the anxious hum in my own brain. She filed, I said, my voice sounding hollow in the quiet room. I checked the court docket online this morning. I see it, Bennett said, clicking his mouse. Marissa Brooks versus Eleanor Brooks. Case number ending in 429. She is claiming $18,000 for unpaid loans and childcare services. It is small claims, so the limit is usually $6,000 in Ohio, but she filed in the regular civil division because of the amount. She is self-represented? Yes. That is good for us, Bennett said, leaning back. It means she is navigating a procedural minefield without a map. But Eleanor, you need to understand the strategy here. She isn't trying to win on the law. She is trying to win on exhaustion. She wants you to panic. I am panicking, I admitted, gripping the strap of my purse until my knuckles turned white. Don't, he said sharply. Reacting emotionally is how you lose. Negotiating under threat is how you lose. The strategy now is silence and documentation. We let her scream into the void, and we answer only with facts. Every text she sends, every lie she posts, you catalog it, but you do not engage. Can you do that? I feel sick, I said. I feel like I'm being hunted. You are, he said frankly. But you are not the prey, Eleanor. You are the defendant, and in a court of law, the defendant has rights. We are going to bury her in inconsistencies. Now, go home and find every bank statement from the last 5 years. I left his office feeling a strange mixture of nausea and resolve. The nausea came from the realization that my sister was actively trying to destroy me. The resolve came from knowing I finally had a shield. 2 days later, the war came to my office. I was in the middle of a code review, headphones on, deep in the logic of a database query. When a shadow fell across my desk, I looked up to see Karen from HR standing there. Her face was sympathetic, but serious. "Eleanor," she said softly, "can we talk in my office for a minute?" My heart slammed against my ribs. I pulled off my headphones. "Is everything okay?" "Just come with me." The walk to the HR suite felt like a march to the gallows. When we got inside, Karen closed the door and picked up a piece of mail from her desk. "This arrived today," she said, handing it to me. "It was addressed to you, but it came to the general corporate mailroom. Since it was marked legal notice, the mail clerk brought it to me." I looked at the envelope. It was a court summons. Marissa had listed my work address as my primary residence. "She knows where I live," I whispered, staring at the return address. "She sent it here on purpose." "I assumed as much," Karen said, sitting on the edge of her desk. "She wanted us to see it. Eleanor, a civil suit doesn't affect your employment status, but having process servers or court documents coming to the office creates a distraction. Is this related to the issue you flagged last week?" "Yes," I said, my face burning with humiliation. "She is suing me for a debt I don't owe. She is trying to embarrass me into paying her." I felt exposed. I had spent years building a reputation here as the reliable one, the professional one, the one who never brought drama to work. Now, my messy, chaotic family life was sitting on the HR director's desk. "I am so sorry, Karen," I said, my voice trembling. "I will contact the court immediately and have the address corrected. This won't happen again." "Eleanor, stop," Karen said gently. "You are not in trouble, but you need to protect yourself. If she is willing to do this, she might escalate. I need you to give me everything. Case numbers. Restraining orders if you have them. We are going to flag your name at the front desk. If anyone comes here looking for you, process server, family member, anyone, security will stop them at the lobby." "Thank you," I said, blinking back tears. "And Eleanor," Karen added, "take the rest of the day. You look like you're about to pass out." I went back to my desk, packed my bag, and walked out. I felt a cold fury rising in my chest, displacing the shame. Marissa wanted me to feel embarrassed. She wanted me to feel like I had to hide, but I was done hiding. I went home and opened my laptop. I logged into my bank's archive portal. Marissa's lawsuit claimed I owed her for emergency rent from 3 years ago. I remembered that time. I had just started at MediSource, and my first paycheck was delayed by a payroll error. I had been short on rent. I searched my transaction history. August 2019. There it was, a deposit of $800. But it wasn't from Marissa. It was a check deposit. I clicked on the image of the check. Paid to the order of Eleanor Brooks. Signed, Linda Brooks. It was from my mother. I sat back, staring at the screen. Mom had given me the money, but Marissa was claiming she had paid it. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, sounding breathless. "Mom," I said, "I am looking at a check from August 2019 for my rent." "Oh," she said. The silence that followed was heavy. "Marissa is suing me for this money," I said. "She is telling a court that she paid my rent, but you paid it." "Well," Mom stammered, "Marissa gave me the cash to write the check. She didn't have a checking account at the time because of the overdraft fees, so she gave me the cash, and I wrote the check for her." "Mom," I said, my voice flat, "Marissa was unemployed in 2019. She was borrowing money from you then. How could she give you $800 cash?" "She sold some jewelry." Mom lied. I could hear it in her voice. The weak, desperate improvisation of a woman trying to hold a crumbling dam together with Scotch tape. "Stop protecting her," I said. "Just stop. She is lying in a court of law, and if you lie for her, you are committing perjury. Do you understand that? You could go to jail for her lie." "I am not lying," Mom cried. "I am just trying to make sure everyone is okay. Eleanor, why are you doing this? Just pay her. If you pay her, the lawsuit goes away." "No," I said. "The lawsuit goes away when the truth comes out." I hung up. My phone buzzed immediately. It was my cousin Mike. "Mike, heard about the lawsuit. That's heavy. Eleanor. It's fake. Mike, she's making it up." "Mike, look, I know she's crazy. Between us, she hit me up for $500 last month. Said Leo needed a tutor. I found out later she used it for a spa day. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to start drama. But if you have the cash, maybe just pay her off to save the kids from the stress. She's a wreck right now. The kids are feeling it." I stared at the message. Mike knew she was a liar. He knew she stole, but he still wanted me to pay. It was the family motto: keep the peace, pay the ransom. "Eleanor, I am not paying ransom, Mike, and if you gave her money, that's on you. But I am done enabling her." I put the phone down. The family was fracturing. One side, Aunt Linda, Mom, was firmly in Marissa's camp, believing the victim narrative. The other side, Mike, Uncle Bob, knew the truth, but were too cowardly to speak it. I was the only one standing in the open, refusing to play the game. I decided to try one last time, not to negotiate, but to offer a ramp. If she wanted a way out that didn't involve total destruction, I would give her one. I texted Marissa. "Meet me at the Panera on 4th Street, tomorrow at 10 a.m., public place, just us. We talk." She replied instantly, "Bring the check." I didn't respond to that. The next morning, I arrived early. I bought a coffee and sat at a small table in the center of the room, visible to everyone. I wanted witnesses. Marissa walked in 10 minutes late. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a trench coat, looking like a celebrity avoiding paparazzi. She sat down across from me, not taking off the glasses. "Do you have it?" she asked. "No, hello. No, how are you?" "I don't have a check," I said calmly. Marissa's jaw tightened. "Then why am I here?" "Because I want to offer you a different kind of help," I said. I pulled a folder out of my bag. "I have put together a list of resources. I found a debt consolidation service that is nonprofit. I spoke to my friend at the logistics firm. They have an opening for an office manager, starting at $22 an hour. I printed out the application for you, and I found a subsidized childcare program that Leo qualifies for." I slid the folder across the table. "This is real help. Marissa, this is a path to stability. If you take the job, I will help you with the interview prep. I will even pay for the first month of after-school care until your first paycheck comes in." Marissa stared at the folder like it was a dead rat. "You want me to get a job?" she said, her voice rising. "I am a mother, Eleanor. My job is raising my children. You think I should dump them in some discount daycare so I can answer phones for 8 hours a day? Lots of mothers work. Marissa, it is not an insult." "It is to me," she shouted. People at the nearby tables stopped eating and looked over. "You think because you sold your soul to a corporation that everyone should be a miserable drone like you? You hate mothers. You hate that I have a life that is about love, not money." "Marissa, lower your voice." "No." She stood up, knocking her chair back. It clattered loudly against the floor. "You are trying to humiliate me. You dangle this paperwork in my face like I'm a charity case. I am your sister. You owe me. You stole my inheritance." "We don't have an inheritance," I said, staying seated, keeping my hands folded on the table. "Mom is still alive." "You stole my share of the family luck," she screamed. "You took everything, the brains, the luck, the money, and you leave me with nothing, you selfish, barren witch." The entire restaurant was silent. A manager was walking toward us. Looking alarmed, Marissa was breathing hard, her chest heaving. She looked around, expecting the crowd to be on her side. She expected them to see a grieving mother fighting a cruel tyrant. But they didn't. They saw a woman screaming at someone who was sitting quietly with a cup of coffee. They saw the entitlement. They saw the rage. Marissa saw it too. She saw the judgment in their eyes. Her face crumpled. The performance had failed. The audience wasn't buying tickets. "I will ruin you," she hissed, leaning down so only I could hear. "I will make sure everyone knows exactly what you are." She turned and stormed out, kicking the folder off the table as she went. Papers scattered across the floor. Job applications, budget worksheets, childcare forms, the debris of my attempt to save her. I knelt down and picked them up, one by one. The manager reached me. "Miss, is everything okay?" "Yes," I said, standing up and smoothing my skirt. "I am sorry for the disturbance. It won't happen again." I walked out of the Panera. I didn't feel sad. I felt lighter. I had offered the olive branch. She had snapped it. Now, whatever happened next was entirely her choice. That night, the escalation moved from public shouting to private terror. I was watching a movie, trying to decompress, when I heard a rustling sound outside my apartment door. A soft thwack, like paper hitting the floor. I muted the TV. I waited a minute. Then I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I opened the door. Lying on the welcome mat was a thick manila envelope. No postage, no name. I picked it up and brought it inside. My hands were shaking again. I opened it. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. They were photos from my private Instagram account. Photos of me on a vacation in Mexico 2 years ago. Photos of me at a nice dinner with friends. Photos of my new shoes. But they had been altered. Someone, Marissa, had added captions in bold red text over the images. Over the Mexico photo, "While her nephews starve, she drinks margaritas." Over the dinner photo, "Eating up the family inheritance one steak at a time." Over the shoes, "The price of these could have paid for a month of rent." And on the last page, a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile, with my work email and phone number circled in red, and the words, "Let her boss know she abuses children." It was a dossier. It was a threat of doxing. She was telling me she had the ammunition to paint me as a monster to the world. I didn't burn them. I didn't tear them up. I put them in the documentation folder. Then I called the building security. "This is Eleanor Brooks in 2B, I said. "Someone just left a threatening package at my door. I need you to pull the hallway camera footage from the last 30 minutes. "We can do that, Ms. Brooks," the guard said. "Do you want to file a police report?" "Not yet," I said. "Just save the footage. I need the evidence." I hung up. I looked at the pile of papers on my coffee table. The fake IOU, the text messages, the court filing with the wrong address, the altered photos. I realized then that I had been fighting the wrong battle. I had been fighting to be understood. I had been fighting to make my family see that I was a good person, that I was reasonable, that I loved them. But you cannot reason with a hurricane. You can only board up the windows and survive. I wasn't fighting for their love anymore. I was fighting for my life. I sat down at my laptop and opened a new document. I named it Case Narrative. I began to type. On March 24th, 2026, the defendant, Marissa Brooks, demanded half of my employment bonus. When I refused, a campaign of harassment began. I typed for hours. I detailed every interaction, every threat, every lie. I cross-referenced the dates with my bank statements. I linked the screenshots. I built a timeline that was impenetrable, a fortress of facts that no amount of crying or family values could breach. By the time I finished, it was 3 a.m. My eyes burned, my back ached, but I felt a strange, cold peace. I was ready for court. I wasn't going there to argue. I wasn't going there to defend myself. I was going there to expose the truth, surgically and without mercy. My sister wanted a showdown. She wanted to drag me into the mud. She was about to find out that I didn't need to get in the mud to win. I just needed to turn on the lights. The conference table in Mr. Bennett's office was covered in paper. It looked less like a legal strategy session and more like the autopsy of a relationship. I stood over the piles, organizing them into 3 distinct stacks: the lies, the harassment, and the money. "This is impressive," Mr. Bennett said, picking up a spreadsheet I had color-coded. "Most clients come in here with a shoebox of receipts and a lot of feelings. You have built a timeline." "I treat it like a system failure," I said, my voice flat. "If you want to find the bug, you have to trace the code back to the source." I pointed to the first stack. "These are the inconsistencies. Marissa claims in the lawsuit that she lent me $18,000 over 5 years, but I pulled her employment records, which are public because she tried to file for unemployment during 2 of those years while claiming she was self-employed. In 2020, she reported 0 income. In 2021, she reported $4,000. It is mathematically impossible for her to have lent me that kind of money." Bennett nodded, making a note. "Good. We can argue she lacked the capacity to lend." "Then there is the testimony," I continued, tapping the second stack. "I spent the last 2 days calling relatives. It wasn't fun, but I got 2 of them to go on record. I had spoken to my Uncle Bob and my cousin Mike. Neither of them wanted to be involved. They were terrified of Marissa's wrath. But I had used the only leverage I had: the truth. I told them I was being sued, and if they didn't help me verify Marissa's pattern of behavior, I would subpoena them. They talked. Uncle Bob admitted that Marissa asked him for $2,000 last year for emergency dental work for the kids. I said. He gave it to her. 2 weeks later, she posted photos of a weekend trip to a resort in Wisconsin. The kids never went to the dentist. I called their dentist's office pretending to be the aunt updating insurance. They haven't been seen in 18 months. That establishes a pattern of fraud, Bennett said. She uses the children's welfare as a pretext to solicit funds for lifestyle expenses. And finally, I said, pointing to the third stack. The threat? I laid out the screenshots of the altered photos she had threatened to send to my boss. I laid out the text messages where she promised to ruin me. This is extortion, Bennett said quietly. In a criminal court, this would be a slam dunk. In civil court, it goes to character. It proves malice. She isn't suing you because you owe her money. Eleanor, she is suing you to punish you. I sat down, the adrenaline of the presentation fading, leaving me exhausted. There is one more thing. I found out why she needs the money. The real reason. I had done some digging. I remembered Marissa mentioning a business partner a few months ago, a woman named Stacy who sold high-end nutritional supplements. I had looked Stacy up on social media, scrolled back 6 months, and found a photo of her and Marissa holding champagne flutes. The caption read, "Big things coming, investing in our future, boss babes." I followed the trail. I looked up public lien filings in the county database. She took out a loan, I told Bennett. Not from a bank, from a private lending company called Quick Capital, high risk, high interest. She borrowed $25,000 6 months ago to buy inventory for a luxury wellness distribution tier. She thought she was going to get rich quick. And the business failed? Bennett guessed. She never sold a single box. I said, the inventory is probably rotting in her basement, but the loan has a balloon payment due next week. If she doesn't pay, they garnish her husband's wages and put a lien on their car. That is the crisis. It isn't eviction. It is a predatory business loan that she hid from her husband. That explains the desperation, Bennett said. And the timing. She saw your bonus as the bailout for her secret mistake. So we use it, I said, leaning forward. We tell the court she is lying about the eviction. We tell them she is in debt to a loan shark. Bennett shook his head slowly. No, I blinked. Why not? It proves she is lying. It proves she has debt, Bennett corrected. But if we bring up the specifics of her business dealings without absolute proof of where the money went, she can claim defamation. She can claim you are sabotaging her entrepreneurial efforts. It muddies the water. We don't need to prove why she wants the money. Eleanor, we only need to prove that you don't owe it to her. We stick to the forgery. We stick to the harassment. We don't give her a platform to cry about how you crushed her business dreams. I hated it, but I understood it. The law wasn't about moral victory. It was about narrow, provable facts. However, Bennett said, sliding a document toward me, we do need to stop the bleeding. She is escalating. We need to send a formal cease and desist letter. It warns her that any further contact with your employer, your landlord, or your social network regarding this litigation will be met with a counterclaim for harassment and tortious interference. He handed me a pen. Sign here. I looked at the heavy cream paper. The language was aggressive. Demand to cease all communication. It felt like a weapon. I had never fired a weapon at my sister before. I had only ever held up a shield. My hand shook as I signed Eleanor Brooks at the bottom. Will this stop her? I asked. No, Bennett said honestly, but it draws a line in the sand. If she crosses it, the judge will see that she ignored a formal legal warning. It makes her look unreasonable. It makes her look dangerous. I left his office with a copy of the letter in my bag. I stopped at the post office to mail it certified. Return receipt requested. As the clerk stamped the envelope, I felt a wave of nausea. I was suing my sister. I was formally threatening her. It felt like I was cutting off my own arm, but I knew the infection was spreading, and I had no other choice. 2 days later, the response came, but not to me. I was at home, eating a salad and trying not to look at the documentation folder, when my phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again, and again. It was the extended family group chat. Marissa added you to the group, Emergency Family Council. I stared at the screen. She had created a new group. It included my mother, Aunt Linda, Uncle Bob, Cousin Mike, Cousin Jenna, and 3 other cousins I barely spoke to. Marissa. Hi everyone. I am sorry to do this. I really am. But we are in a crisis. As you know, we are facing a serious financial situation. We might lose our home. I have tried to handle this privately with Eleanor, but she has sent me a letter from a lawyer threatening to sue me if I ask for help. My stomach dropped. She was spinning the cease and desist. She was framing my self-defense as aggression. Marissa. I am scared. I don't know what to do. I can't believe it has come to this. I am calling a family meeting this Sunday at Mom's house. We need to figure out a plan to save the boys' home. I am asking everyone to come. We need to pool our resources. If Eleanor won't help, maybe we can figure something else out. But I think she should be there to explain why she is suing her own sister instead of helping her family. The messages started rolling in. Aunt Linda. Oh my God. Marissa. Of course we will be there. Cousin Jenna. Suing you? That is insane. Eleanor. What is going on? Uncle Bob. Let's everyone calm down. We can talk on Sunday. Mom. Please, everyone come. We just need to talk. Marissa was putting me on trial. She was convening a jury of our relatives, banking on the fact that in a room full of crying people, I would be the villain if I refused to open my checkbook. She wanted to shame me into submission. I felt the old reflex, the urge to jump in, to explain, to defend myself. She is lying. It is a business loan. She forged my signature, but I remembered Bennett's voice. Do not engage. Do not negotiate under threat. If I went to that meeting, I would lose. I would be outshouted. I would be outnumbered. And anything I said would be twisted. I typed a response. I deleted it. I typed another one. I needed to be surgical. I typed, I have received the invitation. Then I added, however, there is an active legal case regarding this matter. On the advice of my attorney, I will not discuss legal matters in group settings or attend meetings regarding the dispute. I will see Marissa in court on the hearing date. Please do not include me in further discussions. I hit send. Then I left the group. I set my phone down on the table. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I had just walked out of the family court of public opinion. I had refused to play the role of the defendant in her kangaroo court. My phone rang instantly. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Aunt Linda, voicemail. It rang a third time. Cousin Mike. I picked up. Mike was the only one who knew the truth about the dental work. Elle, Mike said, his voice low. Did you really leave the chat? Yes. Marissa is flipping out, Mike whispered. She is reading your text out loud to everyone. She says you are cold. She says you are heartless. What do you say? Mike? I asked. There was a pause. I didn't say anything. I am at work. You know she is lying, I said. You know she took money from you for a dentist appointment that never happened. Are you going to go to that meeting and let her fleece Aunt Linda? Elle, it is complicated. Linda loves her. It isn't complicated, I said. It is theft. If you go to that meeting and don't tell the truth, you are helping her steal. Goodbye, Mike. I hung up. I felt a strange, cold clarity. I was losing them. I was losing the people I had spent my whole life trying to please. But as I sat there in the silence of my apartment, I realized I wasn't losing a support system. I was losing a weight. The next evening, there was a knock at my door, a timid, hesitant knock. I checked the peephole. It was my mother. She looked 10 years older than she had a week ago. Her shoulders were slumped, her coat buttoned wrong. She wasn't carrying a purse, just clutching her keys like a lifeline. I opened the door. Mom, can I come in? She asked, her voice cracking. Please, Marissa doesn't know I'm here. I stepped aside. She walked into my living room and sat on the edge of the sofa, not taking off her coat. She looked around my apartment as if she had never seen it before, taking in the clean lines, the quiet, the lack of chaos. I saw the letter, she whispered. The one you sent Marissa. The cease and desist. She showed you? She was screaming about it. She threw a vase. Eleanor, the blue one on the mantel. It shattered. Mom looked up at me, her eyes wide and wet. She terrified the boys. Sam was hiding under the table. I am sorry she reacted that way, I said, sitting in the armchair opposite her, but I had to send it. She is harassing me. She is out of control, Mom said. It was a confession. She is not right, Eleanor. I have known it for a long time. Since she was a teenager, the way she twists things, the rage. Why didn't you ever stop her? I asked. The question hung in the air, heavy with decades of resentment. I tried, Mom wept. I tried to talk to her, but she explodes. She threatens to cut me off. She says if I don't support her, I will never see my grandchildren again. Eleanor, those boys are my life. If she takes them away, I have nothing. So you sacrifice me, I said. To keep access to them, you feed me to her. Mom put her face in her hands. I didn't mean to. I just thought, you are strong. You have always been the strong one. You can handle it. Marissa breaks so easily. I have to carry her. I thought you could help me carry her. I am not a crutch, Mom, and neither are you. You are a hostage. I looked at my mother, this woman who had raised me, who had baked cookies and bandaged knees, and I saw the terror in her eyes. She wasn't enabling Marissa because she loved her more. She was enabling her because she was afraid of her. Marissa held the family emotional gun, and Mom was the one frantically passing her ammunition, hoping she wouldn't pull the trigger. I can't do it anymore, I said softly. I can't be part of the appeasement strategy. I am setting a boundary. Mom, not just with Marissa, with you. Mom looked up, stricken. What do you mean? I mean, I won't rescue you from the consequences of enabling her. If she asks you for money and you give it to her, I won't reimburse you. If she screams at you and you refuse to leave her house, I won't come over to mediate. I love you, but I won't be the pressure valve anymore. You have to decide if you want to keep paying her ransom. She will destroy everything, Mom whispered. She already has, I said. Look at us. Look at this family. It is a minefield. That isn't love. Mom, it is survival. Mom stood up shakily. She walked to the door. She didn't argue. She didn't beg me to pay the money. For the first time, she looked at me with something like respect, or perhaps envy. You are free, she said quietly. I don't think I ever will be. She left. I locked the door behind her, leaning my forehead against the cool wood. I cried then, not the frantic, panicked tears of the last week, but the slow, heavy tears of grief. I was mourning my mother while she was still alive. 2 days before the court date, I was at work when my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, thinking it was another flying monkey from the family. But then the voicemail transcribed. "This is the Fraud Prevention Department at First National Bank. We are calling to verify a request to reset your online banking credentials." I called them back immediately, walking out to the parking lot for privacy. "This is Eleanor Brooks," I told the agent. "I didn't request a password reset." "Okay, Ms. Brooks," the agent said, typing in the background. "We had a caller about 20 minutes ago. She identified herself as you. She had your social security number and your mother's maiden name. She claimed she had lost her phone and was locked out of the app. She wanted to reset the password and add a new external transfer account." My blood ran cold. Marissa. She had my social because we had opened a joint account years ago for a family vacation fund, which I had closed long ago. She knew my mother's maiden name. She was trying to break into my account to take the money herself. "Did she succeed?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No," the agent said. "She failed the voice verification. She got the name of your first pet wrong." I closed my eyes. Bubbles, my goldfish. Marissa wouldn't remember that. It was too small a detail for her to store. "Thank God," I whispered. "However," the agent continued, "because she had so much of your personal info, we have flagged the account. We recommend closing it and opening a new one with a new account number, and we are adding a verbal duress code. If anyone calls claiming to be you, they must provide a specific word before we will even discuss the balance." "Do it," I said. "The word is Jupiter." "Jupiter. Got it. Ms. Brooks, do you know who this person might be?" "This is attempted wire fraud." "Yes," I said. "It is my sister. Do you want to authorize us to forward this incident report to the police?" I hesitated. This was a felony. If I said yes, she could go to prison. I thought about Leo and Sam. I thought about them watching their mother get arrested. "Not yet," I said. "But please send me the recording of the call and the incident report number. I need it for a civil case." "Understood." I hung up. I stood in the parking lot, looking at the gray sky. She had tried to rob me. Not metaphorically, literally. She had tried to hack my bank account and drain the bonus. The last shred of guilt I felt, the tiny voice that said, "Maybe she is just a desperate mother," vanished. Desperate mothers ask for help. Criminals steal. My sister was a criminal. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by the evidence. The timeline was perfect. The bank fraud report was printed and highlighted. The IOU analysis was ready. I picked up a photo from the coffee table. It was from 10 years ago. Marissa and I at her wedding. She looked beautiful. I was the maid of honor, fixing her train, in the photo. I was looking at her with such adoration. I remembered that day. I remembered thinking, she is starting her life. We are going to be best friends forever. I realize now that the look on my face in the photo wasn't love. It was service. I was fixing her train. I was making sure she looked good. That had been my role from the beginning. The supporting actress, the fixer, the bank. I touched the photo. I wasn't just angry. I was heartbroken. I was mourning the sister relationship I wanted but never truly had. I wanted a sister who called me just to say hi, not to ask for money. I wanted a sister who cheered for my bonus, not one who felt entitled to it. I was grieving a ghost. My phone buzzed on the floor. It was a text from Marissa. Her number was blocked, but I had unblocked it for tonight, just in case she tried to settle or sent a threat I needed for court. "Marissa, I hope you are happy. Mom is a mess. The family is torn apart, all because you couldn't share. If you humiliate me in court tomorrow, if you bring up the business loan or make me look bad in front of everyone, I will make sure everyone knows what you are really like. I will tell them about the abortion." I stared at the screen. The air left my lungs. I had never had an abortion. She was inventing secrets now. She was threatening to spread a lie so personal, so stigmatizing in our conservative family circle, that it would permanently brand me. She was reaching for the nuclear option. She thought this would break me. She thought the fear of a scandal would make me text back. Okay, I'll pay. But she miscalculated. She didn't understand that once you have decided to burn the bridge, you don't care if the person on the other side is screaming insults. I didn't feel fear. I felt a profound, exhausting finality. I picked up the phone. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue about the lie. I typed, "All communication in writing. See you at the hearing." I turned off the phone. I put the photo of the wedding face down on the table. I went to my closet and laid out my suit for the morning. Navy blue, crisp white shirt, sensible heels, armor. I was done being the sister. Tomorrow, I was the plaintiff. No, I corrected myself. She sued me. I was the defendant. But as I looked at the suit, I knew the truth. I wasn't defending anything anymore. I was prosecuting my right to exist. I turned off the lights and lay in the dark, listening to the city sounds outside. I was alone, but for the first time in 33 years, the silence wasn't empty, it was mine. The morning of the hearing, the sky over Lake Bridge was a bruised purple, threatening rain that wouldn't fall. I stood in front of the mirror in my hallway, smoothing the lapels of my navy suit. I looked different. The dark circles under my eyes were still there, but the frantic, hunted look I had lived with for weeks was gone. In its place was a stillness that felt like the surface of a frozen lake, hard, cold, and unbreakable. I picked up my briefcase. Inside was the documentation folder, now 3 inches thick, organized with colorful tabs and an index I had memorized. I wasn't going to court to win my sister's love. I wasn't going there to be understood or to explain why I was a good person. I was going to defend the truth. I drove to the county courthouse in silence. I didn't listen to the radio. I didn't call my mother. I just drove, watching the familiar streets of my hometown roll by, realizing that I was driving out of my old life and into something entirely new. The courtroom was on the 3rd floor, a windowless box with fluorescent lights that hummed like a dying insect. It smelled of floor wax and stale coffee. There were 4 other people waiting on the wooden benches, clutching traffic tickets or eviction notices, looking tired. Marissa arrived 5 minutes before the start time. She made an entrance. She was wearing a cardigan that was slightly too big, sleeves pulled down over her hands, and no makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a loose, messy bun. She looked fragile. She looked like a mother who had been up all night crying. It was a costume, carefully curated to elicit sympathy from a stranger in a black robe. She didn't look at me. She sat on the opposite bench, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, sighing loudly enough to be heard over the hum of the lights. "All rise," the bailiff called out. Magistrate Henderson walked in. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp glasses and an expression that suggested she had heard every lie ever invented and was bored by all of them. "Case number 429, she read from the docket. "Marissa Brooks versus Eleanor Brooks. Please approach." We walked to the tables. Marissa stood on the left. I stood on the right. "Ms. Brooks," the magistrate said, looking at Marissa, "you are the plaintiff. You have filed a claim for $18,000, alleging unpaid loans and breach of contract. Since this amount exceeds the small claims limit, but you have filed pro se in the civil division, we are here for a preliminary evidentiary hearing to determine if this case proceeds to trial. State your case." Marissa cleared her throat. Her voice came out in a wobble, trembling and breathless. "Your Honor," she began, clutching the podium, "I didn't want to be here. I love my sister, but I have children. I have 2 little boys who depend on me over the last 5 years. I have loaned Eleanor money when she was struggling. I paid her rent. I helped her with tuition. I did it because family helps family. We had a verbal agreement that when she got on her feet, she would pay me back." She sniffed, wiping her nose. "Now she has a high-paying job. She got a huge bonus. And when I asked for repayment, not even interest, just the principal so I can save my house from foreclosure, she laughed at me. She said I made bad choices by becoming a mother. She is letting my children suffer while she sits on a pile of cash. Magistrate Henderson didn't blink. Do you have evidence of these loans, Ms. Brooks? Yes, Marissa said. She produced the fake IOU and the bank statement showing the $800 withdrawal from her account, the cash she had supposedly given Mom. I have a signed promissory note. She handed the papers to the bailiff, who passed them to the magistrate. Eleanor Brooks, the magistrate said, turning to me. Your response? I stood up. I didn't tremble. I didn't cry. I opened my binder. Your Honor, I said, my voice clear and steady. The plaintiff's claims are entirely fabricated. I have never borrowed money from my sister. In fact, for the last decade, I have been the one providing financial assistance to her. She is lying! Marissa burst out sobbing. She is lying to save her money! Ms. Brooks, the magistrate snapped. Control yourself or I will have you removed. Eleanor, continue. Regarding the promissory note, I said, pulling out my exhibit. I have here a birthday card I wrote to the plaintiff 5 years ago. If you overlay the signature on the note with the signature on the card, they are identical, not similar, identical. The signature on the note was traced. I handed the card and a transparency overlay I had prepared to the bailiff. Furthermore, I continued, the note claims I borrowed money for rent in August of 2019. I have here a copy of a check deposited into my account on that date. It was signed by our mother, Linda Brooks. The plaintiff claims she gave cash to our mother to write that check. However, I have here the plaintiff's own unemployment filings from that same year, in which she declared 0 income and 0 assets to the state of Ohio. Marissa stiffened. The tears stopped instantly. She stared at the unemployment document in my hand with the look of a trapped animal. If she had $18,000 to lend me, I said, then she committed perjury on her state tax filings. If she didn't have the money, then she is committing perjury now. The magistrate looked at the documents, then over her glasses at Marissa. Ms. Brooks, can you explain this discrepancy? I had cash savings, Marissa stammered, her voice losing the tremulous quality and becoming sharp. Under the mattress, everyone does that. And the signature? The magistrate asked. It looks like hers because it is hers, Marissa insisted. She signed it at my kitchen table. I have one more witness. Your Honor, I said. Marissa turned to look at the back of the room. She hadn't noticed him come in. My cousin Mike stood up from the back bench. He looked terrified. He was twisting a baseball cap in his hands. State your name, the magistrate said. Michael Brooks, Mike said, his voice barely a whisper. Do you know the plaintiff? Yes, she is my cousin. What is your relationship to this case? Mike took a deep breath. He looked at Marissa, who was glaring at him with a mixture of shock and fury. Then he looked at me. I gave him a small nod. Marissa asked me for money 3 months ago, Mike said. She told me her son Leo needed emergency dental work. She asked for $500. She used the exact same words she used in her text messages to Eleanor, that it was for the kids and that family helps family. And was there dental work? The magistrate asked. No, Your Honor, Mike said. I found out later she used the money for a spa weekend. She has done this to 3 other family members. It is a pattern. She borrows money for a crisis that doesn't exist, and then guilt trips us if we ask for it back. You are a traitor. Mike, Marissa screamed. Get out. You are dead to me. Ms. Brooks, the magistrate slammed her gavel. Silence. Marissa was breathing hard, her face red. The fragile mother mask completely disintegrated. She looked wild. Magistrate Henderson stacked the papers on her desk. She looked at Marissa with cold disdain. This court is not a stage for your family drama, Ms. Brooks, the magistrate said. The evidence provided by the defendant is overwhelming. The promissory note is visibly questionable, and your financial records do not support the capacity to lend. Furthermore, the witness testimony establishes a pattern of deception. But my kids, Marissa started. This is not about your children, the magistrate cut her off. This is about the law. I am dismissing this case with prejudice. That means you cannot file it again. And Ms. Brooks? Marissa froze. If you file another frivolous lawsuit against this defendant, or if I see evidence that you are using the legal system to harass her, I will hold you in contempt of court, and I will sanction you. Do you understand? Yes, Marissa whispered, her hands balling into fists at her sides. Case dismissed. I packed up my binder. I didn't look at Marissa. I thanked the magistrate, turned around, and walked toward the exit. Mike had already slipped out, probably to avoid the explosion he knew was coming. I walked out into the hallway. The air was cooler out here. I felt a strange sensation in my knees, the adrenaline dumping out of my system, but I kept walking. Eleanor! It wasn't a yell. It was a hiss. I stopped and turned. Marissa was coming toward me. She wasn't crying anymore. Her eyes were dry and hard as stones. She cornered me near the elevators, stepping into my personal space, radiating heat and rage. You think you won? She whispered, her voice shaking with the effort to keep it quiet. You think because some judge believes your paperwork that you are the winner? You are nothing. She poked a finger at my chest. You are a cold, selfish, barren bitch. You humiliated me in there. You humiliated your own sister. Mom is never going to forgive you. The boys are never going to speak to you. You are going to die alone in your perfect condo with your perfect money, and no one is going to care. She was trying to hurt me. She was trying to find the soft spot, the old Eleanor who would crumble at the thought of being unloved, but she couldn't find her. That Eleanor wasn't there anymore. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see a threat. I saw a tragedy. I saw a woman so consumed by her own entitlement that she had burned down the only shelter she had. Marissa, I said. My voice was calm, normal volume. I didn't whisper back. I am going to say this once. I looked her dead in the eye. You are not entitled to my life because you made different choices. Marissa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The words hit her like a physical blow. It was the one thing she couldn't argue with, the one truth she had spent years trying to drown out with noise and drama. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope. This is for you, I said, pressing it into her hand. What is this? She snapped, looking down at it. It is a copy of the request for a civil protection order, I said. I am filing it this afternoon. It details your attempt to access my bank account, your threats to my employer, and the text messages where you threatened to spread lies about my medical history. If you contact me again, by phone, text, social media, or in person, the police will be involved. This isn't a family squabble anymore. Marissa, it is a legal matter. She stared at the envelope, her face pale. You wouldn't, she whispered. I am your sister. No, I said. You were my sister. Now, you are just a liability. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. Marissa stood in the hallway, clutching the envelope, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Goodbye, Marissa, I said. The doors slid shut, cutting off her face, cutting off the past. I rode the elevator down to the lobby. I walked out into the parking lot. The rain had finally started to fall. A light, cleansing mist. I took a deep breath. The air tasted like ozone and asphalt and freedom. The next few weeks were a blur of administrative cleanup. I blocked Marissa on every platform: phone, email, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I blocked Aunt Linda. I blocked the cousins who had sided with her. My phone, once a source of constant anxiety, became just a phone again. I sent one final email to Marissa's husband. Mark, I knew he was passive, but he wasn't malicious. Mark, I am blocking Marissa for my own safety. However, I do not want to punish Leo and Sam. I have set up a dedicated email address. Email address. If there is a genuine emergency regarding the boys, or if they want to send me drawings or updates, you can email me there. I will check it once a week. I will not respond to any messages from Marissa sent through this channel. If she uses it to harass me, I will close it. Please keep the boys out of this. Eleanor. He replied 2 days later. Understood. I am sorry. Thank you for keeping the door open for them. It was a small thread, a tiny lifeline to the innocent parts of my family. But it was safe. It was on my terms. The reaction from the rest of the family was mixed. Mom called me 3 days after the hearing. She was crying. How could you do that to her? She sobbed. She is broken. Eleanor, she just sits in the dark. I didn't do anything to her. Mom, I said, sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset. I just stopped letting her do things to me. You are cruel, Mom said. No, I said. I am safe. And Mom, if you continue to guilt me about this, I will have to take a break from you too. I love you, but I am done with the drama. There was a long silence, then a quiet sigh. Okay, Eleanor, I won't talk about her. It was a start. A week later, I got a text from my Uncle Bob. Bob. Hey kid, heard what happened. Just wanted to say you got guts. She's been bleeding us dry for years, since you stood up to her. I told her no yesterday when she asked for car repair money. Told her the bank is closed. Thanks. I smiled. My boundary hadn't just saved me. It had shown them that the cage wasn't locked. They could walk out whenever they wanted. I closed on my condo a month later. It was a beautiful space, with big windows and a second bedroom that I turned into an office. I painted the walls a soft, calming sage green. On the first night in my new home, I sat on the floor with a glass of wine. I had paid off my credit cards. I had fully funded my emergency savings. The bonus was gone, every penny allocated to securing my future. I thought about Marissa. I knew she was out there, probably telling anyone who would listen that I was a monster, that I had stolen her inheritance, that I hated children. I knew the narrative she was spinning, but as I looked around my quiet, peaceful home, I realized something profound. I didn't care. Let her tell the story. Let her be the victim in her own tragedy. I was the protagonist of my own life now. I had paid a high price for this ticket, the loss of a sister, the fracture of a family. But as I took a sip of wine and listened to the silence, I knew it was worth every cent. I was alone, but I was free. This is the end of the story. My sister demanded, "Give me half your bonus, I have kids." I refused. Then she exploded. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I poured a lot of emotion into Eleanor's journey, and I really hope her victory brought you some satisfaction. It is a hard thing to stand up to family, but sometimes it is the only way to save yourself. I would love to know where you are listening from. Please leave a comment below and tell me your country or city. It is always amazing to see how far these stories travel. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Revenge Stories and share your thoughts in English. Did Eleanor do the right thing? Would you have handled it differently? Let's talk about it in the comments. See you in the next story.